Macedonia in late autumn was defined by a brutal, biting frost that crept down from the northern peaks before dawn. The morning air was sharp and clear, vibrating with the stomping and sharp exhales of restless war horses in the courtyard. The crisp silence of the mountain winter was broken only by the crackle of early hearth fires cutting through the freezing mist. Philip II of Macedon was the kind of father who loved his son completely and was almost never in the room. He was always campaigning, always planning, always moving. He had built Macedonia from a cold northern kingdom that southern Greeks dismissed as barely Greek at all into the most dangerous military force in the world. The work of maintaining that was never finished. He came back from campaigns with new wounds and new territories and plans for the next campaign. Alexander would watch him from across a sprawling banquet hall where flickering torchlight danced off heavy stone columns. The air inside was dense with the radiating warmth of massive central hearths and the raucous, booming laughter of victory-drunk veterans slamming bronze goblets onto timber tables. Watching the men closely, Alexander tried to measure the distance between what his father had done and what he might do. What his father had built was real. The phalanx and the companion cavalry had changed everything about how wars in Greece were fought. Macedonia had become a lethal weapon, and the boy who grew up inside it learned exactly what that power cost. He was 12 years old when a horse trader named Philonicus arrived from Thessaly, a region in central Greece. He was leading a black horse so large that the grooms at the palace were already worried about it before it was fully through the gate. Philonicus wanted 13 talents of silver for it. A talent was roughly 60 pounds of silver, the ancient equivalent of buying a private jet, an absurd price for a horse that no one could ride. Every man who tried was thrown. The horse was enormous and wild-eyed, and it spun and kicked and bucked with a violence that sent grown cavalrymen into the dirt. Philip watched for a while and then turned to send the animal away. The boy said he would bet his father the full price of the horse that he could ride it. Philip looked at him. There was something in his son's face, not arrogance, something closer to a man who had noticed something no one else had noticed and was very sure of what he'd seen. He noticed that the horse was terrified of its own shadow. Every time the handlers moved, every time the sun shifted, the shadow moved under the horse's feet and the animal went sideways because it was trying to get away from the thing beneath it and couldn't. It wasn't wild, it was panicking. Alexander took the reins himself. He turned the horse, which was called Bucephalus, the ox head, named for the broad square shape of its skull, to face the sun, so the shadow fell directly behind it and out of the horse's sight. He kept his voice quiet. He stroked the animal's neck until he felt the shaking in its muscles begin to settle, the way water settles after you've stopped stirring it. Then he swung up. Bucephalus ran. Not the kicking, spinning, terrified running of before. The running of a horse that has been waiting for someone to figure out what it needed. It went flat and fast and willing under him, and Alexander felt the power of it through his legs and his hands. The animal no longer fighting him, but simply moving, moving, moving. When he brought it back to where Philip was standing, his father's face was wet with tears. For Philip, a warrior king, to weep in public was no small thing. He kissed his son's head and told him Macedonia was too small for him. Historians recorded his words. "Find yourself a kingdom equal to your ambitions," Philip said to his son. Philip, the king, could not imagine to what scale his son would answer that challenge. Alexander's story doesn't end here. Hannibal, Alexander the Great, and Genghis Khan. True history that reads like a thriller, illustrated on every single page. Find all three on Amazon and subscribe for a new chapter every week.